So welcome to the 1 million visitors webinar from the traffic source that Google hates. Now this particular webinar is for you specifically if you need traffic to your sites, if you don't want to rely on Google, and you want quality traffic, which is targeted traffic. Now if you've joined us live on the webinar, we will take questions. They will be at the end if we have enough time left. We're going to aim for about an hour's webinar in total. So let me tell you about Johnahtan Leger. As you know, Johnahtan Leger has been a software developer for a long time, does multi-millions in sales, has created many services and products, and does a lot of testing, which means he will be able to tell you, roughly speaking, within the next hour, everything that you need to know about this particular traffic source and how you would use it and why it's so beneficial. So who am I? I'm Eamon Motin, and I'm the General Manager at JohnathanLeger.com, and my job today is to make sure that John proves what he's going to tell you. So I'm going to keep asking him questions until he gives us the information and proof that we want. Because he's going to show you a technique that the results can sound almost unbelievable, frankly. The results are incredible, but he's going to tell you why it works, how it works, and show you that. So let's just say hello to John now, make sure he's here and the audio's good. Hello, John, are you there?
I am here.
Cool. So I'm going to put you on the spot tonight as usual and ask for lots of information from you and make you prove it. So the people who are here, the same as me, same as you, they want quality traffic. They want some good traffic to their websites. That's why they've got websites. They want people coming. But they also want what we call targeted traffic, which means people who are interested in the particular niche or topic or subject matter. Now, we've all tried to get traffic from Google. We know how difficult that is. What we would like to do, if we can, is avoid having to use Google. So my first question to you is a very simple one. Can this really deliver? We're talking about traffic and subscribers. Can it deliver?
Well, it absolutely can, and we have seen evidence of that month over month over month. We've been using Pinterest to drive traffic actually for the last year, and we just started this for clients over the past 4 months, and by the end of this month we will be well over 1 million visitors sent to all the client sites. It will actually be closer to about 1.2, 1.3 million visitors, and that's only in 4 months' time, and those numbers keep growing. So every month the number grows, because as the Pinterest campaigns mature and they get more followers and more pins and it spreads out, the traffic just keeps rolling in, and it's not just a lot of traffic, it's very high quality traffic, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Okay, well that sounds great, but what about the proof? And there is one final question before we start, because I know this is an important one for many people who are thinking about this and may be impatient. Does this happen overnight? I know you've talked in the past about this thing called the snowball effect. Is it instant? I mean, what's the realistic sort of, expectation?
No, it does not happen overnight, but it does, generally speaking, happen much faster than it does with Google. So within the first 60 days, usually 60 days, never more than 90 days, we see a very large spike in traffic, because that's how Pinterest works. Pinterest lets your account mature, and as you get more followers, it applies more value to the pins, the images that you post, and they show up in the search results more, and then that continues to snowball, because the more your pins show up in the search results, the more people like those pins, the more people follow you, and then the more Pinterest pushes them out into the search results. So it really starts to take off once you hit that critical mass.
So this is almost like compound interest, where you get growth on top of growth, and then growth on top of growth on top of growth, and so on.
Exactly.
Cool. So we've got some screenshots here which you've supplied. Can you just talk us through this? Because the first one I'm going to show doesn't have a snowball effect. So what's going on? What is this?
This is the last month for just one site.
Okay.
Point out that total number at the bottom. 51,804 visitors just from Pinterest. Now, anyone who uses Google Analytics knows that this image is a screenshot taken right out of Google Analytics, and no one tracks traffic better than Google does. So 51,804 visitors just from Pinterest for this one site.
Okay, now this number is interesting me. New sessions, what does this mean?
That means 83% of the people coming to the site are new visitors that have not been there before.
To me, that's interesting because that's telling me that 17% are coming back.
Yes.
So there must be something that's bringing them back. So we don't get a
Yeah.
visitor once, we get a visitor multiple times.
That's why site quality is important. And keep in mind, this is repeat visitors just from Pinterest. So that means that they're clicking on multiple pins. 17% of the people are clicking on multiple pins that go to, in some cases, different pages of the site. And that's great. You want people to keep coming back. They may have forgotten about your site. Maybe they visited the first time through a pin, but then maybe they forgot about it, but then they see another great pin, and so they come back later. And that adds that extra 17% of traffic, which of course results in 17% more revenue for you, and that's great.
Yeah. And we can see here this page session, that means nearly 2 pages per visitor, per time they visit.
Yep. And the average session duration is important, that people are spending a full minute on the site. That means they're going there and reading what's there, looking at what's there, not immediately leaving. And with Pinterest, it is important that the site you use is a quality site. You want people to show up and say, wow, this site looks great. Let me read this page. Let me click these ads. Let me opt into this form and get on this email list to get whatever freebie you're offering them. You want to present them with a good site because all the traffic in the world won't do you any good if the site isn't set up right. And we'll talk about that also a little bit more later.
So that's just literally a month, and the number to remember is 51,804. So I think the next screenshot that we're going to see is going to need a little bit of explanation. So let me go to that one now, because this one's slightly different. So what's going on here?
Okay, this is that same site that got 51,000 plus visitors in that 1 month. This is all the visitors from Pinterest this year. 171,200 sessions this year. Now think about that. 171,000 sessions this year, but 51,000 of those happen in the last 30 days, the last month of time. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about the snowball effect. You can see how that graph, the line goes up over time. The more pins get out there, the more traffic you get, the more Pinterest pushes your stuff out there because the followers are growing, the number of pins are growing, and it starts to really take off after a few months. So you have to give this kind of thing time. Pinterest delivers quality traffic very quickly, but that real big spike where you start getting into the very high numbers doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But the potential, I mean, you might fight with Google for 6 months to get your site to rank for keywords and only get a couple of thousand visitors a month. With Pinterest, you start getting some traffic within the first 30 to 60 days, but then over time, if you're in the right market, man, you see the numbers here. It starts to take off to the 51,000 visitors in the last month for this particular site.
So 6 months to get to 171. I'm going to round the numbers to make it easy. So that's 30,000 a month. The last month is 51 and a bit. So that's an increase of nearly 50% on the monthly rate because of that spike and that snowball effect. You said something that went by very fast, John. And I'm not sure if the audience would have got it, but my ears pricked up as soon as you said it. You said something about followers and repinning and pinning your pins. So does this mean, let me see if I've got this straight. When I do one of these pins, which is just an image with a description and a link and so on, other people are spreading that about as well. Is this something that happens in Pinterest? That's a normal thing in Pinterest.
Oh yeah, it's very normal for people. What happens is you post the pin, if it's a great image, it appears in the timeline of all your followers. And if they like it, they might either hit the like icon, or what's more common is they'll repin it to their own boards, but it still points to your site. So if you get a pin that gets really popular, and this happens all the time, where 100, 200, 1,000 people repin your pin, then suddenly, let's say you had 10,000 followers to your account, but if they each had a few thousand followers, suddenly you got 100,000 or more people that it's your pin is appearing in front of, you get all of that immediate traffic, and then you benefit from Pinterest taking note of the fact that your pins are going viral like that, and so they promote your account so it shows up more in the search traffic, the search results. So you end up with a
Right.
lot more traffic if you pin often and you pin good quality images.
And now I'm understanding why this sort of suddenly grows, and that snowball effect is so fast once you've got a bit of a momentum going. That makes sense, because actually your pins are then magnified by your followers who are repinning, and so it's no longer you pinning 30, 40, 50, 200 times a day. They're multiplying your effects for you. So you really are getting compound interest in
Right.
its own way.
And let me
Yeah.
say something else. This particular account that this traffic is coming from has a long way to go before it fits before it reaches the maximum number of followers that Pinterest will allow. So I fully expect that 51,000, by the time we've gotten the account completely grown to the max that Pinterest will allow, I expect the traffic to get to where it's at least double what it is now every month. So think about that. If I can make that happen, and it looks like it will based on the growth we see here, we're talking about 100,000 visitors a month just from Pinterest. That doesn't include all the other traffic sources that this site has coming to it. That's just Pinterest.
Yeah. So I guess this section here that I'm just highlighting now in blue, what we're seeing is you were taking it steady here to build sort of an inorganic way the followers and profile of the Pinterest account, so that you weren't in danger of losing the benefits. And then we're seeing an acceleration as time goes on. Because you were talking earlier about mature sites, and they take a little time to mature and so on. And that's why this seems relatively flat. Is that fair to say?
Yes, but keep in mind, we're not doing anything different after the spike than we're doing before the spike. We
Yeah.
follow Pinterest guidelines about how many people you can follow, about how many pins you can post. We follow their guidelines. It just takes time for Pinterest to say, wow, this account's really doing good. We're just going to, just all of a sudden, it's a phenomenon of Pinterest. It just starts to spike. And in a very short period of time, you end up with a lot more traffic.
Yeah. Now, can we just talk for a second about bounce rate and average session duration? Because I think a couple of people are confused about this, because we've got some questions already. And that bounce rate, some people think that means people are just immediately leaving the site, but that's not what it means, is it? Because we have this section here, which tells us how long they stay. So this is the figure that says how long they've been on the site, which in internet terms, a minute, just over a minute, is like forever. And they're looking at about 2 pages per person, or per session. So
Yes,
these are,
some people are showing up and just leaving. That's true. That does happen. But you
yeah,
can tell by the average session duration that the people who like what they see are sticking around. And
yes.
I can tell you, I can attest to the fact that this site is earning quite a bit of money off of this traffic.
Yeah. Now, we're not going to tell people what the site is for obvious reasons, because they're going to go out and try to destroy it and copy it and all that kind of thing. We've got questions asking for it, but we're not going to be giving out site URLs today, because you can't. When you're in a public forum like this, there's going to be somebody who's going to try and cause trouble. So we're not giving out site URLs. But these numbers here...
One person asked what kind of a site is it. I will say that it is an information-based site. It's a content site. But it's a quality site, and that's important. It's a quality site. And it's also on a topic that you probably wouldn't think would work very well on Pinterest. In fact, we were very surprised at how well it did when we put it in. We put the client site into Pinterest because, I mean, we wanted to do it, but I really didn't expect the results that we ended up getting from it. So sometimes it can really surprise you what works really well on Pinterest. It's not just about clothes and jewelry and retail, though that is its Pinterest primary function. We have sites across the board doing very well.
Yeah. And now we've got another one coming up. I've got a screenshot that we're going to show in a second, and we're obscuring the site URL. But this is a different site, is it? This is a totally different site.
Yes, this is a different site.
Now, what are we looking at here? Because I'm not sure what I'm seeing now. So I can see the date range here. May 15th to June 12th. That's less than a month, isn't it? So we're looking at 1 month, and
Yeah.
this is a brand new site. It's only been around for, a month or two.
It's about 2 months
2 months.
uh, total, about 2 months total. But there's something really special about this site that we'll talk about towards the end. The
Yeah.
important thing to note is that this site, within that 2 month period, and actually less than that, and we'll tell you why later, immediately started generating very high click-through rates with a very high what's called page RPM. That means revenue per 1,000 page views. And it just took off. It just took off. And we were very surprised. We had never had a site in this particular market before. And it is surpassing, in the first 2 months, it's getting close to surpassing one of our best performing sites, and this one's just getting started. I mean, the amount of traffic it's getting is low right now in comparison to some of our best performing sites, but the value of the visitors to the site is very, very high. It's actually getting a $16 RPM. That means every 1,000 visitors, raw traffic from Pinterest, is earning $16. And that means in the next 30 days, this site's going to clear well over $500. And that's actually low because I checked it again today and it's gone up significantly. So it's probably going to be well over $600 in the next 30 days. And it's just getting started. If the growth rate continues the way I'm seeing it continue, and based on the hundreds of other Pinterest accounts and clients we've had and their growth rates, the way things normally happen on Pinterest, I expect this site to be earning between $1,200 and $1,500 a month from AdSense. And that's AdSense, which is low paying in comparison to affiliate offers and things like that, within the next 3 to 6 months. And that is low. That's a low estimate, because if it ends up with the same traffic like we saw the other site has, 50,000 a month, it's going to go significantly higher.
Yeah. Now, this particular graph that I'm seeing here, which is an AdSense revenue graph, so this is not traffic directly, this is money. I'm seeing the same snowball thing. So that, again, this is a common feature when you're doing this Pinterest campaign. You have this smoother start and then you start seeing peaks. But you also said that the volume of traffic is lower on this one, although the value of that traffic is higher. So you don't always have to have millions of visitors or even hundreds of thousands of visitors to start making money. And as you've seen there, 550 for the next 30 days. And by the way, this slide is out of date already, because I haven't been able to keep up with it. Over the last couple of days, John keeps giving me new figures for how much the site's making. And every time he said, can you do a new one? I said, oh, I've got other things to do. Can we just put the 2-day-old slide on there? And he said, okay. So the slide is out of date because I couldn't keep up. So it's not the latest figure.
What's important to note is that all of the traffic to this site, all of it, is coming from Pinterest. It's the other site, yeah, it's getting 50,000 visitors from Pinterest, but the site owner has also put a lot of effort into getting traffic from other sources. This site is only getting traffic from Pinterest, and it has one of the highest page RPMs I have ever seen, which tells you that the traffic from Pinterest is high quality traffic, because Google adjusts AdSense earnings based on how well the traffic is converting from people who click on the ads to people who actually buy something from the advertiser. And their algorithm is very smart to figure that out. And it rewards sites with the kind of quality traffic that provide results for the advertiser. This site is definitely providing results, and the reason why is because that traffic is coming from Pinterest. And we'll show you guys a chart, a study that was done by Shopify a little later, to prove why that's such a good thing to get traffic from Pinterest.
Yeah. I want to talk about the snowball effect for a moment, and also just talk for a moment about what you said about Google there, because Google has a snowball effect as well, but it takes longer. So now this is a figure, it's illustrative. It's not meant to be specific figures, but the blue there is Google, and this is Pinterest. What you found in your testing over the same time is the amount of work you put into generating a couple of thousand visitors a month for Google is a lot of work, and you know, it does grow, as you can see, over time, but there's a lot of work. If you put the same kind of amount of work into Pinterest, you get this kind of a growth. And in the time it would take somebody to generate maybe a couple of thousand Google visitors, you've seen clients who actually have 20 or 30,000 visitors a month plus, which is a massive, massive difference. And once you get those visitors, and assuming you have a decent site and you've got something there to interest them, you can do a lot more with 30,000 people than you can with 2,000. Ask any store owner how many visitors they'd like and how many customers. I think they'd say 30,000. But the snowball effect means if you want to, let me just go there, if you want to get this good bit here, which is where it's peaking, the snowball effect means you have to start here. Is that right? We've got to do this early bit. We can't get round that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. There's no way to just instantly produce massive amounts of traffic. It does happen quicker, as you can see from the chart, than Google does, but you still have to wait for that initial period, and that only makes sense. Pinterest wants to know if the account is going to keep growing, if it's going to keep getting followers, if it's going to keep posting good pins, or if, because you know, some people, they get on and they pin with a vengeance and they get lots of followers and then they get burned out and they quit. And if Pinterest is promoting all of their stuff and that account, and suddenly they stop, well, that doesn't make Pinterest look very good, does it? So they want to make sure that the accounts are growing and will continue to maintain that growth over time before they really push the spike. And it's important to say, too, that the market you're in really determines how much traffic you can get from Pinterest. That really depends. Because some markets do phenomenally well, some markets do pretty good, some markets do okay, and some markets just don't work with Pinterest. So, and we'll talk about how to know whether or not your market is a good one later on. And someone asked, well, why aren't we actually showing the websites? Well, and Eamon already explained that. The reason why we're not showing you the sites, A, is because some of these sites belong to clients, and we can't show you that because that's private. That's confidential between us and them. And second, there's always some joker who wants to go and try to mess things up and cause problems. So we don't give out that kind of information. We keep our clients' confidentiality. It's very important to us. So we're not going to show you the website, but we are going to show you the charts, and we have shown you the charts straight out of analytics, so you can see that this traffic is really coming from Pinterest.
Well, the other thing that happens when people are asking which is the website, seeing a website proves nothing anyway. And you know the next question from those same people is going to be, well, show me the earnings and the bank account and everything else. Nobody's going to do that. And, you know, whatever we show you, it's genuine information. But there are certain sensitive pieces of information which we can't share with you because there are too many people out there who are going to go and copy literally steal the content. We've seen that happen before in the past. We haven't just started doing internet marketing last week, been at this for, well, in my case, 9 years, John, 15, I think.
Almost 12, yeah.
12, is it? Yeah. One other thing I wanted to do on the snowball effect is as far as revenue is concerned. Now, this is a site, again, we're not going to tell you, but it's a site where you can look at this. What we're seeing is an actual growth of revenue here. Now, okay, we've predicted July because we're only part way through, but that's an accurate prediction. Now, look at that chart, the red line. If I project that forward another 6 months, where's it going to be? This is the snowball effect in action. This is what happens. Growth on top of growth. If you speak to anybody who sells mutual funds or anything like that, they'll tell you about compound interest. It's a simple idea, but it works, and you see it most easily in the thing that we're talking about, a snowball. You roll it down a hill, and a magic occurs. By the time it gets to the bottom, it's way bigger than when you started at the top. It accumulates, well, it's actually called an accretion disk. It accumulates material around it, and as it gets bigger, guess what happens? Each revolution accumulates even more because it's now bigger than it was before. So with Pinterest, when you have more followers who are repinning for you, more people are seeing those pins, and more of those will become your followers, and more of those will repin your pins again. So it's kind of a a very nice, what some people would call a virtuous circle, which has a massive effect. Now, John did say that we're going to give you some kind of proof here, because, you know, it's all right with saying that Pinterest is quality traffic and targeted traffic, but is it quality traffic? So I'm going to ask John to explain this little infographic here, and I know it's small, but I'm going to zoom in for you in a second. So if we take the top part of this, John, which is purchasing through discovery, can you just walk us through it? So this part here, which is talking about the average amount spent per order, this is Pinterest people spend more on average than other social channels. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And I know most people, when they think of social traffic, they immediately think of Facebook. Well, why? Because Facebook has more than 1 billion users. Well, Pinterest may not have 1 billion users, but their users spend more on average per order than other social network users. And look at the number at the bottom, the 87%. 87% of people are going to Pinterest to figure out what they want to buy. I guarantee you 87% of people aren't going to Facebook for that. 87% of people are going to Facebook to post the funny quote of the day or what they ate for breakfast. It's
Yeah.
different. Pinterest is about retail, buying, shopping. So where do you want your traffic to come from? Do you want it to come from the site that is dedicated to commercial retail traffic? Or do you want your traffic to come from a site where everybody's talking about pictures of their kids and grandma and breakfast and all that sort of thing? You have to think about that. Pinterest is just better. And this infographic came from a huge study done by Shopify. And Shopify, as you know, is a massive site with tons of shops and people selling stuff online. So 87% of the people on Pinterest surveyed were looking for what they wanted to buy, and that's the kind of traffic you want.
Now, 87% on its own doesn't mean much, but if we look at the number of people who are posting every day, so these are people on Pinterest, 2 million a day?
And that's a low number because this study was done in 2015.
Yeah.
And Pinterest is growing fast because it's awesome and people love it. And so that number's got to be much higher by now.
Yeah, I think the last figure I saw is that there are 100 million active users, which is, you know, more than most countries.
And most of that traffic comes from the United States. And you know, U.S. people are big buyers. So if you want traffic from U.S. buyers, Pinterest is definitely the place to be. Now, this particular section of that infographic shows you have got to have a mobile-friendly site. And we emphasize this all the time. Your site has to be mobile-friendly because 80% of the traffic in 2015 is coming from mobile. And that's not just an infographic. We have hundreds of these campaigns running, and I can tell you from experience, vast majority of people who are going to hit your site from Pinterest are coming from mobile, either from the mobile site or from the Pinterest app. And so you've got to have a site that's mobile friendly. It makes all the difference in the world. And I'll tell you this, if you are an AdSense publisher, mobile is good news because the ads from AdSense are so much more visible on mobile than they are on desktop. On a big desktop screen, the ads look much smaller and they're easier to miss. But on mobile, when you scroll by, it's in your face. Those ads really pop out. And so you tend to get higher click-through rates, and that means more revenue for your site.
Now, John, that's great, but, you know, what about the people who are not technical? It's really, really difficult to make a site mobile friendly. I mean, it's incredibly complex.
No, it really isn't. If you run a WordPress site, and you can get a free plugin that instantly makes your site mobile friendly. So anyone who shows up at your site, boom, it's mobile friendly. Now, if you want to pay a couple of extra dollars, then you have more control over where the ads go or whatever. But it's incredibly simple and very cheap to get a great looking mobile site where those ads really pop if you're running WordPress. And I know most people run WordPress because it's so easy. If you're not, if you have some custom layout, well then yeah, you're going to have to spend a little money to get your site mobile. But it's not spending money, it's an investment. You're not pouring that money down the drain, you're investing in all those people who are searching on mobile. And that's true of your audience, period, because Google has stated that more than half of the searches going through Google are now coming from mobile. So your site really needs to be mobile friendly or you're missing out on a lot of traffic.
So bear that in mind, and it's easy to do because now there are lots of simple tools that you can use to make your site automatically become mobile friendly. It really isn't something to be scared about. I know many people are, but these days there are so many simple ways to do it. You just have to pay a few dollars in some cases. There are free ones as well. So we've got another one here which talks about growing your business, which is interesting. Now, the pin cycle. Can we just spend a minute or two on this, John? Because I think this is one of the fundamental factors that creates the snowball effect, and I want the audience to understand this. So if we start with this bit first, because this is the headline figure to me.
Yes, I love this about Pinterest. Anyone who's active on Facebook knows that it is tough to get a post on Facebook to go viral. It's hard. I mean, you've got to really, really stand out. But the average pin on Pinterest is repinned 11 times. And that's an average because some pins won't be repinned and some will get repinned hundreds of times. So the average ends up being 11. And that's beautiful because that means, let's say that each of those 11 people who repin have 5,000 followers of their own. That means suddenly your pin is in front of 55,000 other people instantly, plus the additional credit that it adds to you in Pinterest algorithm so that your account gets promoted more and your stuff shows up in the search more. So it's a beautiful thing that Pinterest users are very quick to repin. And the reason for that is it's so easy. It's one click. If somebody likes something, boom, one click and it's on their own board. It's very easy. Pinterest knew what they were doing when they designed their site. It's very user-friendly, makes it very easy to share. In fact, most of the pins on Pinterest are repins, and that's a wonderful thing for anyone who's getting involved in getting traffic from Pinterest because it means that their stuff is going to get repinned a lot, which results in more traffic for them.
I think the statistic I saw was that 80% of pins are repins, which means for every 2 that you pin, you'll get a total of 10 with other people pinning them. But my brain froze a moment ago because you threw some numbers so fast and they were like the figures, I could hardly catch them, you were going so fast, and they sounded astonishing. You were talking about the multiplying effect if you have some followers and they repin. Can you just give me an example again, but do it really slowly so we can keep the, follow the figures? So I've got some followers. Let's, an example.
Okay, let's say that you've got a couple of thousand followers.
Yeah.
And your pin only gets repinned 11 times. But if the average number of followers for each of those 11 people who repin is 5,000, that means your pin instantly shows up in 55,000 other people's timelines. So that's 5,000 times 11. 55,000 other people are going to instantly see your pin in their timeline. And that means a lot of click-throughs. Now, to be honest about it, not everyone is going to, not all of those 55,000 people are going to be on Pinterest at that moment to see it. No. But a significant percentage will. And the more that happens, the more people see those pins, the more clicks you get, which is why it's important to pin very, very often with your Pinterest account if you want to generate a lot of traffic. You can't do this once or twice a day and expect a lot of results. You got to pin over and over and over and over again, new images, really getting people's attention. It's a numbers game. It really is. You got to play the odds with Pinterest, and that means pinning a lot.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, those numbers are kind of almost impossible to fathom, but they make sense. But it's like, wow. So you put a pin, and if you've got followers and they have followers, in effect, you're getting the benefit of you're leveraging somebody else's followers to spread your message. And this is how that snowball thing that we keep talking about, why it does peak like that, because all of a sudden, a single pin isn't just a single image. It could be repinned thousands of times and then repinned again multiple thousands of times by people who've seen it from that first repin. And then I suppose later it could repin.
I've had that experience where on some of these accounts, it's a great picture with a great description, and it ends up repinned immediately by, say, 100 people. But then all of their followers also see it, and a bunch of them repin it because it's a great picture with a good description. Suddenly you got 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 repins on this one pin, and it's appearing in front of hundreds of thousands of people instantly. It's brilliant. I love Pinterest for that.
Now, traffic's great. Everybody wants traffic. We all want traffic. Site visitors sounds wonderful, and 1 million visitors sounds fantastic. 10,000 sounds fantastic. Whatever the numbers may be. 2,000 for some people would be incredible. When we get the site visitor, they're going to have to come somewhere, a page on our site. So what kind of things do we need to look for on that site to keep them, to engage them? You showed us some statistics earlier where they were on the site for a minute or so and they're looking at a couple of pages. About, I think, 15 or 16% were returning, which is good. It means there's something of interest to them. What sort of things are relevant? I'm going to show the screen that you've done earlier. So we need a professional, attractive site. What does that mean? Do we have to spend a lot of money on a designer?
No, you really don't. You really don't have to spend a lot of money on a designer. Again, WordPress is your salvation here because WordPress has some really good-looking professional themes. Some are free, some cost just a couple of dollars, but they look really good. A couple of things you do want is you want a professional header graphic with a logo. So you might have to spend a couple of dollars on that, but it makes your site look so much better if when the page loads up, the header at the top has a cool little logo and a professional looking name. That's so much better than the standard WordPress text name. It makes people think you're a real business because it looks, I mean, what real business has a text header? You know, do you go to Walmart and see a text header? Do you go to Target? Does Amazon have a text header? Nobody uses a text header that is trustworthy and professional. If you go to an attorney's site, do they have a text header? No, they don't. You need it to look professional. That's very important. That wins the trust of the people coming to your site. And it's got to be attractive. Now, what attractive means varies depending on the market you're in. People interested in technology sites, they like that edgy look with dark colors, with bright fonts and things like that. But if you're into sewing or ballet or bread making or woodworking or something like that, what's going to be considered attractive will be different. And you know your own market. You know what people in your, or you should. If you don't, then I don't know what you're doing in that market. You need to know your market and know what they're going to want to see when they land on the page. Ask yourself this, and Eamon brought this up earlier when we were talking about it. Use yourself as the judge. When you go to a site in your market, what things stand out to you? What things make you think that site looks professional and attractive? You need to emulate those same things on your own site. So be sure you look at all of your competitors' sites and then take an honest, objective look at your own and say, does my site look as good and professional as theirs? And if it doesn't, you need to do something about that.
Yeah. Now, you told me something about something that happened with somebody with a site that you'd seen earlier today, and you were talking about the opt-in box. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you mean by an opt-in box and why it's so important to have that on your site?
Yeah, an opt-in box is simply a box that pops up that offers something of value for free to the visitor in exchange for their email address, in exchange for the right for you to send them emails over time. That is so important. We have one example, and we've talked about this example many times on webinars and in emails and things, a site that we have called Wood Designer. It has almost 8,000 people on the email list that it has built up over time because it's got this prominent pop-up opt-in box. And all kinds of good things happen when you can email the people that are visiting your site. Because every time you post a new page, let's say that you only use AdSense. Let's say you're not even emailing them about affiliate offers or product offers. Every time you post something new, you email your list and tell them about the new page. They go visit the page, And that's more opportunity for them to click on your ads. Or if you are offering affiliate products on the site, to click through and buy something. It also builds your credibility with them because it shows all these people on your list that you have knowledge about all these different topics and subjects. You want to do that. It takes, on average, the statistic I've read and seems to prove true in my own marketing, it takes about 7 times of hitting a potential customer with the same message before they'll trust you enough to buy from you. If they're on your email list, reaching that 7 number is easy because you just have to email them every time you post a new post. And about the 7th time, people will start to trust you and say, you know what, this person's okay. They really know their stuff. I trust their recommendation, and then they'll buy from you or they'll click on the ads or whatever the case is. You've got to have that opt-in box. If you're missing that, you're missing out on the bulk of your revenue over. And this is long-term business we're talking about here. You could do a fly-by-night just trying to get people to click on your ads, and you might make some money off of that. In fact, you probably will, but not nearly as much as if you build up a big email list. Think about it. Everybody on this webinar today is here because of the emails that we sent out telling them about it. If it was just posted on a site somewhere, people lead busy lives. How many people are going to hit that site every day and see that this webinar is coming up tonight and show up? No. You get an email. That's what brought you here. You need to get people on your email list.
Yeah, everybody here is the perfect example of why an opt-in is important. Now, I know you told me earlier, and this was kind of wow, you doubled the click-through rate for Ted simply by telling him he had his adverts in the wrong place. So can you just explain what this means? Because that's kind of doubled the rate that quick, I mean, with one change?
For those who don't know, Ted is my brother, and Ted is an awesome guy, and he builds a lot of the sites that we sell to customers. Well, he built this one site. We're currently building out our own Pinterest network because we would be fools not to do that with the results that we're seeing. So I have Ted as often as possible. He's building sites and adding Pinterest campaigns to them and getting traffic to those sites to generate revenue. Well, he had one that wasn't doing very well, and so he wrote to me yesterday morning, and he's like, John, the click-through rate on this site is low, and it's just not earning anything. What am I doing wrong? So I went and looked at the site, and I saw that the ads were in the wrong place. To someone building the site, he may not realize that they were in the wrong place. But I told him, well, move the ad here and change it to this format. And we changed it to a bigger box format, and we put a little image next to it, and we put it right below the title of the article. Instantly, that day, by the end of that day, the click-through rate had doubled. But more important than that, the clicks had earned as much in that one day as the site had earned in the past week. Because having the ads in the right place also changes what the value of the clicks. Because now it may be, if someone, let's say there's an ad off on the side of the page. Someone happens to see it, they're like, oh, hey, look, there's an ad. They click on it, but they've already read the content. You've already lost them. They're not really terribly interested anymore, but just out of curiosity they click on the ad. They're not going to buy as much. So Google is going to downgrade the value of that click because it's not resulting in a lot of sales for the advertiser. You put the ad in the right place in the hot spot of the site, right inside the content, right under the title, you get that visitor right when they land on the page and they're very interested in the topic. They're much more likely to buy. So that one little change doubled the click-through rate and multiplied the value of the ads on that site by 7 times. And it happened overnight because that instant change came from the traffic that was coming from Pinterest.
I mean, that's incredible. But this is one of those things where a little bit of knowledge goes a long way, and if you know those things, you can make big changes. As you said, Ted wasn't sure, so he asked you for advice. What's this thing about working pages? Because, I mean, that sounds kind of self-evident, but can you give me an example?
Oh, God, yes. You would think that someone who spent money with us as a client and pays every month and it's getting visitors from Pinterest would have a working page. But I periodically review all the clients that we have just to check and see how things are going. Oh, this one poor guy, he got 4,000 visitors in the last 7 days, and he was sending them all to a page that didn't exist anymore. And I just really felt for the guy, because you got to make sure you got to keep track of these things. And he was sending it all to a page that didn't exist. Think about everything he missed out on, all the opt-ins he could have got. I mean, even at a 1% rate, that's 40 people who could have been on his email list that weren't there because he had no page. Or at a 1% conversion rate, that's 40 sales he missed because that page was no longer there. So yeah, you gotta pay attention and make sure that your pages stay up, or at least let us know when you change them.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like fairly straightforward stuff to do. So this isn't specialist technical knowledge that we're talking about. This is, you just got to keep an eye on your site, really. But on that basis, I mean, look, I'm going to ask you to give me some examples or some. I'm going to show you a little site here which I haven't really done much with, because I kind of got a bit bored and I want to make something with this. So what do I need to do to this site to benefit from Pinterest?
Well, there's a lot of things you need to do with this site, Aaron. I know you love your bread making, but and hey, maybe it'll teach people how to make bread, but this site ain't going to make any money, I'll tell you that. There's a couple of things wrong with this site right off the bat. First of all, where this really cool little graphic is with the stacked bread, that's where your ad needs to be, right there. Right underneath that title. That's the perfect spot to put the ad. Google actually published what's called, if you go to Google and you look up the AdSense heat map, it's called a heat map. You'll find their graphic that shows you where the best place is to put ads for the most click-throughs and the most revenue. And that spot is right underneath the title of the content. Now think about that. When you go to a page, let's say you search Google for something like making bread at home, and you click through to the page, do you care about everything around the edges of the page? No. You're looking for how to make bread at home. So what do? You look straight at the content. You go right to the instructions, right? So that's where your ad should be, right inside the content. That's the best place to put it. And for me personally, I have found through millions of page views the best structure if you're using AdSense. Now, if you're using affiliate marketing, it's different. Affiliate links are different. But if you're using AdSense, and I bring this up because I know a lot of the people on the call probably are, it's this exact size that you're looking at here with the stacked bread. It's that block format, ad format, that gets the most clicks. That's what does it, especially on mobile, man. On a mobile, that blocked ad is so visible and so obvious, you just can't miss it. You literally have to scroll all the way past the ad to get to that first sentence on a mobile. Making bread at home is not difficult, really. You have to scroll past that block of ads. And if that ad has something great about bread making, your click-through rate goes through the roof. And since with Pinterest, 80-some-odd% of people are on mobile, the ads are so visible, you get a much higher click-through rate. That's where your ad should be. So that's problem number one. That should not be an image.
Well, I hope that the audience appreciates how much I'm exposing of my lousy site making techniques here. But the other thing is, what you're telling me is that I'm actually wasting my prime real estate for advertising with an image that it's not even clickable. So that's good to know. Now, if I wanted an entire run through this, I know we don't have time anyway, but there's clearly a lot of other things that might need changing, and you talked earlier to me about the About Me page and things like that.
Yes.
So I think you have something to say about that later, don't you, in terms of looking at
I think it's great that you have the About Me show up on every page. That's good because stories sell. People love to know a little bit about the person who published the post. If you go to the news, like I read the news on Google News, and I'll click through and go to all these different newspapers and read the articles. almost inevitably the byline, the person who wrote the article, it's got their picture. People like to see the picture of the person who wrote the content. It connects them to the person. It's not just this empty page of text. Now there's a human being involved, and you want your picture on there. So that's important. But what's more important is your bread making site does not have an opt-in box.
No.
So you're
Now,
missing
what?
out on people. Anyone who's interested in bread making is probably interested in all kinds of things that have to do with bread making. If you can get them on a list and keep sending back to your site over and over and over again, you multiply your revenue potential for the site, and you're not doing that.
No. Now, a full review of the site would take time, and for those who are not sure what to do with their site, I'm going to make you a particular offer a little bit later, which we'll tell you about when we get to that section. But if you're concerned that you may not know how to optimize your site in the right way, because we said make sure your site is good, there is a solution to that which we're going to come to. But let's be completely transparent here. Not every niche is going to do well in Pinterest traffic. So how do we find out, John? What do we do?
It's very simple. You go to Pinterest, you search for keywords related to your market, and you see, are there a lot of pins? Look under the users tab. Are there lots of users? Do those users have high follower counts? If they do, then it's probably a great market. And it has shocked me, some of the markets that do have very large following in Pinterest. Like, you would think Pinterest would all be about retail, right? Shopping and fashion and clothes and jewelry and things like that. And there is a lot of that there. So if you're in that, that's great. But we have sites about sewing and woodworking and self-help and just all across the gamut from clients and our own network that are doing great. So you got to go to Pinterest, you got to do a search, and you got to see, are there a lot of results and a lot of users with high follower counts? And if there are, it's probably a great market. Markets do vary because some markets are more valuable than others, but that's a very good sign that you may do very well with Pinterest.
So we can actually use Pinterest to find out whether it's going to work for us. I love it. So we're not having to guess and stumble into this blind. It will tell us. Just a few minutes research, see who's there. There must be some bad idea sites. So I've got this on screen. Just if you could explain to us why this is not such a good idea, direct to an affiliate offer.
Sure. We used to let people do that. We used to take clients that wanted a direct affiliate link in their campaigns, but we're not doing that anymore because Pinterest does not allow affiliate links now. We have discovered they don't allow it. Now, sometimes you can get by with it, but more often than not, Pinterest down any account that's pinning to affiliate offers. So we can't do that anymore. It's not fair to our clients because then we have to start all over again and they never reach the snowball effect, and it's just not fair to them for the money they're paying. So we're not allowing affiliate links anymore. It's got to be your own site. But don't worry about that. You can always put those affiliate links in the pages of your site or whatever kind of ads you want to use. And I've seen some of our clients are awesome, brilliant pages where, like for e-commerce sites, as soon as the person lands on the site, it pops up that opt-in box, and I love this. If you have an e-commerce site and you're on this call, you've got to do this. I have done this. I have gone to e-commerce sites and immediately signed up for people's email lists because of this. As soon as they land on your site, you pop up that box and you offer them an instant 10 or 15% or whatever discount if they opt into your email list. And who's not going to do that? I mean, who's going to say, no, I don't want to save 15% immediately? Nobody's going to do that. So you get a very high opt-in rate. And then you can contact those people over and over and over again because they've already told you they're interested in buying. They want a discount, and they will probably buy from you again and again and again. So definitely do that if you're using an e-commerce site. But even if you're not, whatever kind of site you're using, you've got to have that opt-in box. You want to get people on that email list. Long term, that's where your bread and butter is going to be.
Yeah. Cool. And there is a point about that which I've suddenly realized that we haven't covered. If you have people on your opt-in list, when you email them, that traffic does not show in the filtered view as coming from Pinterest. So the graphs we gave you earlier didn't show you any traffic that was generated from the subscriber lists because it was filtered for Pinterest.
That's
So
right. I
that
can give
traffic
you
is
as an
extra
example.
traffic. Yeah.
The one that's getting 50,000 a month from Pinterest, that site's getting more than 100,000 visitors a month. But just direct from Pinterest, it's over 50,000. So it's getting twice that traffic total, but half of that comes from Pinterest, and the other comes from other sources, which includes that almost 8,000 people on the email list. And every time a new post goes up, that email list gets hit, and they go to the site.
Well, we saw an earnings slide a little bit earlier, and I want to talk about this because we've got this snowball effect demonstrated on this slide. But there's something else going on this slide, isn't there? And it's to do with patience and having a bit of common sense and allowing the snowball effect to take place. So what happened with this particular site, John, and this promotion? Can you just explain why we're focusing on this again?
Sure. My heart goes out to the poor client who decided to cancel towards the end of May, because that's what happened with this site. The client started a campaign with us, but got impatient towards the end of May, early June, and they canceled. They stopped paying us, and so we diverted the traffic from their site to our site. And look what happened. It was just about 2 or 3 weeks later that Pinterest decided now's the time to perform the spike. And that guy was paying maybe $200 a month and instantly missed out on the revenue that is really starting to accrue now. And the next 30 days, it says 550 on that graph there, but I know it's going to be higher than that because today's revenue and yesterday's revenue show it's going to be higher than that. It's probably going to be well over $600. So he was impatient. He canceled after 6 weeks, and everything he would have paid would have been paid back to him in the next 30 days, and who knows how much over the next year.
Extrapolating there, I think I might be losing your sound, John, I'm not sure, but one thing I would like to mention is this is AdSense income. It's passive income. Passive income, which is one of the things people talk about a great deal. Yes, you've got to build the site. Yes, you have to run the campaign. But the AdSense revenue is passive income. John, are you still there? I'm not sure if we lost your sound.
Yeah, I'm here. The weather here is getting pretty bad, so if we do lose the sound, you go ahead and take over. But as long as you can still hear me, I'm here.
So we're offering a time-limited discount, and that offer expires at midnight Eastern Standard Time on Friday, July the 15th. So the offer that we're making for the campaign only, the regular price is $500 setup and then $350 monthly. But until Friday at midnight, we're giving you a 40% discount offer, which means you will pay $300 setup and then just $210 monthly. The code you will need for that particular discount is 40 off July, so that's 40OFFJULY. Remember, these campaigns are completely hands-off. You give us your information, we'll take care of the rest. But if you want more, if you need help to maximize the conversion rate with your site visitors, if you need help to get your site a little bit more effective, we can offer you a site analysis with the campaign. You can't buy the site analysis on its own. It's just $250 extra. But because we're offering a discount until the end of Friday, the campaign and analysis offer, which is normally $750 for setup, $350 monthly, you're going to get 40% discount off that, and you'll be paying $450 for setup and $210 monthly. But it is time limited, so you've got to take action fairly quickly, and you have to use the coupon 40 off July. After you purchase, you're going to be shown a form, and you'll send us your details. If the form doesn't show for any reason, don't panic, because we'll follow up with you by Monday the 18th, so we'll contact you if there's a problem. But do check your primary PayPal email address and your spam folder, because sometimes we know that the purchase record goes into that email mistake. What happens next is that you will complete the form. It's essential, of course. You've got to tell us what you want us to do, and you'll give us 20 up to 250 keywords related to your market or your topic. Then the team is going to get started within the next few days. They'll start to build your presence for Pinterest nice and safely, and then they'll ramp up as it's safe to do so. And that's when the snowball effect starts. We've talked about the snowball effect quite a lot in this webinar, and so you understand what we mean by that. There's a kind of almost like a learning curve. There's an initial entry point with the campaigns where the first 60 to 90 days approximately, it's fairly slow, and then all of a sudden you tend to get a spike, and from there it grows and grows and grows. But remember, the discount is time limited, so you really do have to act now because it finishes at midnight on Friday, the 15th of July.